You don't do it because you like it. You do it because stopping feels unsafe. Right now, you're probably listening quietly. Maybe the room is dark, maybe your phone is the only light, and even though your body is tired, your mind is wide awake. Like it's been waiting for something. You replay a moment from earlier. Not because it mattered that much, but because it didn't feel finished. That's the part no one sees. Your mind doesn't chase thoughts for fun. It chases closure. And the problem is, closure rarely shows up. You tell yourself, just one more thought, just one more angle, just one more mental rehearsal, then I'll stop. But you don't. Because the thinking isn't the problem. It's the relief that comes after. That tiny drop of calm when a thought finally clicks into place. That's what keeps you hooked. It feels productive, responsible, like you're protecting yourself from something invisible. You imagine future conversations, not because you're dramatic, but because being caught off guard once was enough. So now you prepare. You rehearse what you'd say if they misunderstood you, if they criticized you, if they left. Your mind builds entire scenes at night. Full conversations, different endings, some kinder than reality, some crueler. And you lie there, staring into the dark, feeling your chest tighten, even though nothing is actually happening. That's the strange part. Your body reacts as if it is. Your heart doesn't know the difference between imagination and memory, or between memory and prediction. So when you replay something from years ago, your nervous system treats it like it just happened. And when you imagine something that might happen tomorrow, your body braces like it's already here. No wonder you're exhausted. But here's something quieter, something most people never realize. The thinking didn't start because you're curious. It started because at some point thinking worked. Maybe once it saved you. Maybe noticing subtle shifts in tone helped. You avoid conflict. Maybe replaying conversations helped you understand what went wrong. Maybe anticipating outcomes helped you stay one step ahead in a world that felt unpredictable. So your mind learned a rule. If I think enough, I can prevent pain. And that rule never expired, even now when you don't need it as much. The habit stays. Like a reflex, you don't choose to spiral. The spiral chooses you, especially at night. Night strips away distractions, no notifications, no noise, no one to perform for, just you. And everything you've been holding back all day, thoughts you postponed, feelings you swallowed, questions with no safe place to land. So your mind steps in, it starts sorting, analyzing, connecting dots that don't always belong together. And somewhere in the middle of that, there's a strange comfort, not peace, comfort. Because thinking feels familiar. Silence doesn't. Silence leaves room for feelings you can't control. Thinking gives you something to do. It makes you feel like you're not powerless. Even when it hurts, you might notice how your thoughts circle the same themes, not randomly, very specifically. Things you said, things you didn't say. Moments where you felt misunderstood, times you wish you'd been different. Your mind keeps returning to them, not because you're stuck, but because some part of you is still trying to fix the past, as if understanding it deeply enough might change how it felt. As if finding the right explanation might finally let it rest. And sometimes, for a few seconds, it works. You land on a thought that feels right, balanced, clear. Your body softens, your breathing slows. There it is. That tiny release. That's the addictive part no one talks about, not the thinking, the relief that follows. Your brain learns that if it keeps searching, it might find that calm again. So it searches harder, longer, even when the cost is sleep, even when the cost is peace. And then there's the future. You don't imagine the future because you're hopeful. You imagine it because uncertainty feels unbearable. Your mind scans for threats, for possible regrets, for ways things could go wrong. Not because you expect the worst, but because being unprepared feels worse than worrying. If you've already suffered it in your mind, maybe it won't hurt as much if it happens. That's the logic. Quiet, unspoken, and exhausting. You might notice how hard it is to just be present, even in good moments. Part of you is already analyzing it. Will this last? Did I say something wrong? Should I enjoy this more? You watch yourself living from the outside, as if you're both the actor and the critic, and sometimes you wish you could turn your mind off just for a while, just to rest. But when it goes quiet, something feels wrong, like you're missing something important. So the thoughts come back, almost on their own, because thinking has become your safety net. And letting go of it feels like stepping into the dark without knowing what's there. Here's the part that might feel uncomfortably accurate. Even when thinking hurts you, it still feels like it's doing something for you. It gives you identity, depth, a sense of meaning. If you stopped thinking so much, who would you be then? Just a person feeling things without explanation, without control. That feels terrifying. So you keep going, loop after loop. Not because you're weak, but because your mind learned that staying busy meant staying safe. And no one ever told it otherwise. There's a quiet sadness in that. Because beneath all the thinking, there's a part of you that's tired of carrying everything alone. A part that just wants to rest without consequences. But rest feels earned, and you never feel like you've thought enough to earn it. So you stay awake, listening, thinking, waiting for a thought that finally says, you can stop now. And it rarely comes. Sometimes you wonder what it would be like to wake up without mental noise, to open your eyes and not immediately feel behind, not already reviewing yesterday, not already worrying about tomorrow, just here. But even imagining that feels strange. Because your mind has been running for so long, stillness feels unnatural. You've learned to live inside your head. It's where you make sense of things, where you survive emotionally. So when people say, just don't think about it, it feels almost insulting, as if they're asking you to stop breathing. What they don't see is how much effort it takes to carry all these thoughts quietly, to function, to smile, to respond on time. All while your inner world is loud and restless and never fully settled. You notice things others miss. Subtle shifts, unspoken tension, tiny changes in energy. Your mind connects dots fast, too fast sometimes, and once it sees something, it can't unsee it. So it keeps watching, analyzing, protecting, even when there's nothing left to protect against. You might feel guilty for how tired you are, like you haven't done enough to deserve rest. After all, the work is invisible. No one applauds thinking all night. No one sees the emotional labor of replaying everything just to make sure you didn't hurt anyone. So you push through. Again, there are moments when you catch yourself imagining conversations that will probably never happen, apologies you'll never hear, explanations you'll never give. And you know it's not logical, but it feels necessary. Because unfinished emotional business feels heavier than physical exhaustion. You might tell yourself you're being dramatic, that you should let it go, that other people don't think this much. And maybe they don't, but that doesn't make your experience less real. Your mind learned to stay alert because at some point being alert mattered, and it hasn't forgotten. There's something tender underneath all of this, something soft, a desire to understand, to be understood, to make sense of pain so it doesn't repeat. That desire isn't a flaw, it's human. It only becomes heavy when it's carried alone for too long. You don't need someone to fix you or silence your thoughts. You need moments where your mind doesn't have to be on guard. Moments where you're allowed to exist without explaining yourself, without preparing, without reviewing. Even noticing that longing right now might make your chest feel a little tight or a little lighter. Both are okay. If you're still listening, it's probably because some part of you feels seen, not analyzed, not labeled, just recognized. And maybe for the first time tonight, you're not trying to solve anything. You're just letting the words sit with you, letting yourself breathe a little slower. You don't have to stop thinking forever. That's not realistic. But maybe just for this moment, you don't have to chase the next thought. You can let it pass. Not forcefully, just gently, like watching something float by without grabbing it. There's nothing you need to figure out right now, nothing you need to replay, nothing you need to prepare for in this exact second. And even if your mind tries to argue with that, it's okay. You don't need to win. You can just notice the thinking will come back. It always does. But maybe it doesn't have to own every quiet moment. Maybe you can let this one belong to you. Just you. Here. Breathing, still listening, and for once, not searching for the next thought to save you.